All right, so it looks like we're on to our next part, which is going to be the pegboard portion of the pegboard toy. Shared with you. There we go. All right, so there's our square peg. That's where we kind of left off. And so I'm going to start the pegboard by making a new part. So I select New and Part from the File tab. All right, and there we are. So there's some different ways to approach doing this. I'll show you one way, and one thing you'll learn quickly in Autodesk Inventor, when you're making a part, there's certainly a lot of ways to make a part, and I'll just be showing you one way. But as you get better and better at it, you'll figure out some other ways that might be quicker for you to make some of your parts as well. So I'm going to start the pegboard by doing a 2D sketch, and I'm going to select the XZ plane again to start my drawing on. Pegboard portion is, it's a board, and then there's two holes in it, one for the round peg and one for the square peg. So I'm going to start by making the board, rectangular piece. That needs to be dimensioned, and so I'm going to dimension these sides here. The widest part of the board is 5 3/4 of an inch. I could also type that if I wanted to. Instead of 5 3/4, I could type 5.75. So it's your choice. It can understand both. Now, where did it go? Well, it just got really big at once. So I'm going to hit the top view, and there we go. It's back in our screen. I'm also going to dimension the shorter side here, and this should be dimensioned as 3 inches. So that's the board portion of it. I'm going to finish the sketch, and I'm going to extrude the board. And so the board, it says the thickness of the board should be 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going to type that in there and hit the green check. There we go. There's our board. It's 5 3/4 by 3 inches with a height here of 3/4 of an inch. And so to do the holes on the board, we're going to start a 2D sketch. And we're going to sketch on top of now this board. I'm just going to rotate it here because I like that view a little bit better. So I'm going to start with the hole in the board. And there's a couple ways to do a hole. I'm going to show you one way, and then later on we'll learn some other ways. So I'm going to do this hole by drawing a circle on the board and then dimensioning that circle to be 1 inch in diameter. And then I'm going to position the circle on the board. And when I position it, I kind of want it to be equally spaced here. It doesn't tell you exactly these holes necessarily, but I'm going to do my best to get it equally spaced. So I'm going to click on the dimension button again. I think it might have already been selected. I'm going to click on this edge, and I'm going to dimension this circle from that edge to be, oh, I don't know. Let's try inches. Let's see where that puts us. That might be a little bit too much. I'm going to double click on that dimension and change it to 1.5 inches. Okay, and I'm also going to dimension the location of the circle relative to the longer. I'm going to click here and then go to the midpoint of the circle again and click. And we want this to be centered, so it will be 1.5 inches here because that's half of 3 inches. Finish the sketch. Have a circle drawn there. I'm going to extrude the circle, and boom, it's going up. That's kind of weird. I want to make a hole, and so right here from the extrude window, I can change the direction of the extrusion here. So I'm going in this direction. Oh, direction 2 looks to work. Goes right through the board. There it was, direction 1, direction 2, and I hit OK. And go to the home view, and what do you know? We have a hole. That's good. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to draw this square hole. And so I'm going to start another sketch here on top. And I'm going to rotate it around. And I'm going to draw myself a rectangle here. And I'm going to dimension the rectangle. So this needs to be a square that's 1 inch. 1 inch. Notice I did that a little bit differently than I did the square peg. I didn't use the equal constraint. position it here. So this distance from here to here. Now before it was 1.5, but I think because that was the midpoint of the circle, we might have to add or take away a little bit here. So I think it needs to be 1 inch there. And then we're also going to dimension it from here to here. And I believe we did 1.5. Let's see if for the circle, so 1 inch should be our constraint for the square sketch. And we do another extrusion. We're going to click on that square, and it's going up. We don't want it to do that. We want it to go into the board, so we have a square hole. So we change the direction and hit OK. And we have now our 2-holed pegboard. Let's say we're not happy with the position of these. Okay, we want them a little bit closer together, like in the example. And so we haven't done anything over here with the browser, but what we can do is we can actually open up here our extrusions that we did, and inside of those extrusions are sketches for both the circle and for the hole. So let's say I want to reposition the circle just so it's a little closer to the square hole. So I'm going to double click on sketch 2 and just go in and adjust this dimension here. So instead of 1.5, I'm going to change that to 2. Now you don't have to do this if you're happy with where it is. That seems like almost too much, so I'm going to make it 1.75. Let's try that. I'll finish the sketch. You can see my hole shifts. And let's say I want to do that also with my square. And so I just go down here, and you can see there's my square sketch. I'll double click on that. And then I'll adjust this dimension here, and I'll just do 1.25. Now we'll shift it in a little bit more. And finish the sketch. A little bit more like the example. They look a little bit more equally spaced out. Okay, so let me save this. Save as. And I'm going to save this again to my network drive. Now you may decide not to save the network drive, and that's fine. You're saving all your stuff to a file that you can actually find later on. I cannot count the number of times I've had students save things on their computer, but they actually have no idea where they're saving them. And so that's why this network drive is kind of nice to use. You don't use it for any of your other classes. And so this is a good place to put it so you can find it later. Save it somewhere else, like in my documents folder or somewhere else. Make sure you're aware of where you're actually putting your files, because you're going to need to use them later. All right, save. Includes the pegboard video.